So a very warm welcome to Phil Strachan from Strangebrew. Now, Phil is an experienced Business Network member, having transitioned from the London and I think Manchester group, Phil. So he's very familiar with the format and how we roll, but obviously we, as the Business Network in Chester, don't really know very much about Phil yet. So the spotlight today is all around learning a little bit more about Phil and Strange Brew and how we as a network can help. So first of all, Phil, for the group, tell us a little bit more about your background and what it is you do.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, born in Glasgow, and I got a marketing honours degree eventually, having gone through the schools and whatever. At one point, I thought I wanted to be an accountant, but thank goodness I didn't go that direction. The only accountant I'd have made would have been a creative accountant, which maybe isn't what everybody's looking for. Eventually, I discovered this thing called marketing, and I took a business administration degree. And I was actually taught marketing in the second year. It was taught in the UK at Strathclyde University because it was a new subject, really.
Mm-hmm.
But so I went through the 4 years, which was great. I really loved it. And I then had to move south. And I actually joined what is now Glaxo, working in the healthy foods division of Glaxo, working on brands like Ribena and PLJ and Schlur and Top Deck Horlicks. That was really great experience. And I also worked on the soft drink side. They had the Coca-Cola franchise, so I was involved with the brands there. And also Top Deck and Lilton Fanta, all sorts of things like that. Really, really good grounding. After 2 years there, I joined Nestle, and I moved to Croydon. And I spent 8.5 years there. And at that point, I worked on Gold Blend, Blend 37, Nesquire, 11s. I ran Nescafe, the biggest brand in the company, which was really interesting. And I also worked on Libby's and Cross and Blackwell's divisions, Branson Pickle, things like that. But again, really good grounding. So for 10 years, I was in food and drink. And I then changed because I thought, well, let's get out of this and do something different. I loved watches, so I actually joined Seiko Watches, became marketing director for a couple of years. I then joined Fisher-Price Toys and became marketing director of Fisher-Price Toys. So 15 years worth of marketing, working with brands, but working with brands within the marketing departments of big blue chip companies for whom brands really matter. So then in 1989, I made a decision to change sides. And I joined at that point one of the biggest corporate identity consultancies. They were the 5th biggest. And I joined them because I could see that they were struggling, because the 80s was wonderful for design and branding. You know, Fitch and Conran used to charge $1 million for a logo in 1981 or whatever. But by the end of the 80s, we were in recession. And the bean counters in the companies were saying to the marketing people, what are we getting for this big investment? And they couldn't answer. And the people who were selling the design, the identity, couldn't answer either, because they were basically designers. They weren't business people. And what I said to the corporate identity people was, look, I can come in, I can talk to the people who used to be me, and I understand the language. It's about selling a business solution, not a piece of design. And I joined them. They liked that idea. And I brought in new clients to them, like Sainsbury's and Courage and Weetabix and Cadbury's. And I spent a couple of years there. That was really good. Then one day, I mean, the design industry, the branding industry was going through a recession because there were so many of them around, so few briefs being given because we were in recession and the budgets were very small. So all these companies that had grown big and bought Ferraris and bought fancy Apple Macs and fancy buildings were making people redundant. And when I joined the agency I joined, there were 62 people there.
Gosh.
And when I left after 2 years, there were 14 people there, including myself.
Wow, gosh.
But one day came to the point, Phil, really sorry, we've loved having you here. You've injected new life into our business. You've been great, but we're going to have to make you redundant. because we're being bought over by a corporate identity consultancy who only want the corporate part. So I thought, oh dear. But they said, but hey, the business you brought in, you can keep. The accounts you brought in, you can keep, because they're going nowhere. The people who are buying the business from us can't do it. We can't do it. So you can start your own business. So I did.
Ah, brilliant.
And that was in 1991. I set up QED, Quite Extraordinary Design Partnership, with two of the creative people I brought in to work with me at Lloyd Northover, where I was working. And so for the next 8.5 years, we relaunched brands like Foster's Lager and Ponton's Holiday Camps, worked on Hugo Boss and Dulux and Walker's Trisps and Jose Cuervo and Butterkist. It was really good fun, really good. But after 8.5 years, my creative partners were fighting with one another. One wouldn't come in on a Monday, so the other one wouldn't come in on a Friday. All the designers were complaining to me about the way they were behaving. And I really realized I was running a kindergarten. All these people were a pain in the backside, pain in the neck. Also, what struck home to me was I was winning good business, but I was earning personally less than I was when there were only 3 or 4 of us. So I made the decision really to, well, hey, this is pretty silly. In the year 2000, I decided I was going to work from home. I'm going to package all my expertise and experience in me, all my knowledge of brands and branding, and I was going to work from home and offer my services to SMEs out in the region. So essentially, for the last 21 years, that is exactly what I've been doing. I've been relaunching accountancy groups, colleges, business coaches, motivational speakers, automotive technology businesses, travel agents, you name it. And I just love the variety. And breweries as well. Yes, I've done a few breweries. In that sense. Yeah.
So tell me, excellent. So tell me, you've got stand out from the crowd on your screen behind you. So tell me, what do you mean by that?
Well, that's essentially what I do. And it's because I come across far too many businesses who frankly don't stand out from the crowd. Hey, I'm another, whatever. Well, big deal. I've just met 50 other another, whatever you are. And you haven't given me a reason to come to you rather than your perceived competitors. These businesses are lost in what I call a sea of sameness. They just blend in with the competition. They've jumped in the bandwagon. They're saying and doing the same thing as everybody else does. And that's not a recipe for success. It really isn't. And so I realized that what they need to do is stand out from the crowd. That's what branding is all about. And that's what I do. I help them with my experience in that area to help them stand out from the crowd. Does that help?
It does, yes. So I am also intrigued by your thing, the other side of you, that talks about you being a business and brand alchemist, or you provide alchemy. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I suppose first of all, I really never ever come on to anybody and say, hey, I'm a branding specialist or a branding consultant, because that's boring. And it's also very misunderstood. People would think if I said I'm a branding consultant, they would think, well, that's only for big companies. We can't afford you. There's only 1 of us, 10 of us, 20 of us. We're not Glaxo or Nestle or Coca-Cola.
Sure.
On the other hand, people would say, well, why would we need you? Because we've got an amazing design consultancy who are all younger than you, Phil, and they can do me a brand tomorrow for $5. So why do we need you? So these are not good titles. But alchemy is what I do. I help businesses to transform their fortunes. That's what I do. Alchemy is a process of transformation. It's base metals to gold. And that's what I help people to do, to move from being, a commodity to being a desirable brand.
So can you give us an example?
How do you describe that? How do we describe that? Well, I think one example of somebody who's in the business network is he wanted me to launch a business for him. He was coming out of a big intellectual property business, and he was going to set himself up as so-and-so IP. And he said, what do you think, Phil? Because he'd heard me talking around the table in one of the sessions in London. And I said, well, it doesn't really stand out from the crowd. He said, right, could we talk about how we could do something a little bit different? So I worked with them. And basically, it's all about drilling into what somebody is all about, what they really are. And don't just tell me A, another accountant, A, another solicitor, A, another anything, right? It's got to be something that connects, that intrigues, that people can see benefit from. Yeah. So working with them on the process, we looked at all the different descriptors for the business, but he ended up being the intellectual property works, which was done for several reasons. Yes, he was going to start his business on his own, but he was also going to bring in people and work with them. But so therefore, it needed to be more than a one-man band or a one-man band in my terms. Yeah. So he became the intellectual property works with a little twist because it's an X on works, and works meaning two things. The intellectual property works; it does a job for you, and it's also a place of business. Yeah, and he loved that. And on the way through talking about what his business was about, I discovered that he worked with clients for whom intellectual property, like patents, trademarks, were really important, medical devices, etc. And so it was core to their business. It really was at the heart of their business. And the strapline that we came up with was putting IP at the heart of your business. So Stephen Carter is his name. The intellectual property works, putting IP at the heart of your business. And that is much more meaningful than Stephen Carter, patents and trademark attorney, adding value, whatever. So that's a sort of example. It's about really drilling in and helping someone to stand out. And that's what I call brand, not bland. Because
yes, so I was going to come on to that. So the brand, not bland. So it's, as you say, it's finding that point of difference. So as in our network, we've got a number of accountants and solicitors and IFAs and lots of different representatives in different categories. But it's we encourage people all the time to be honest, authentic, and really speak from the heart about what it is they do and how they do it. So can you give us another example where you've taken someone that might have struggled to move away from bland to something that's more striking, I suppose?
Well, they don't struggle. They often don't realize they've got a problem in the first place. Yeah, they don't realize the bland until you talk to them and ask a few questions, make a few observations. And that's because they're too close to the business. They're saying the same thing all the time. So I worked with an accountancy group, and basically they were going to do a new website. They'd been bought over by another couple of accountants, and they were going to do a new website. Fortunately, the website company said to me before, yes, we can do you a great website, but before we do, we'll do a better website if you make Phil Strachan. So I met them, I looked at what they were, and basically they were another accountant. They had a strapline called More Than Your Typical Accountants. Big deal, yeah. And when I actually drilled into what they were all about, I pointed out to them that accountants are accountants, yeah. They deal with the business 18 months ago. They're not taking you forward, yeah. And we got to make you exciting. A little bit, we've got to do something that makes you exciting. And basically, the perception of accountants, if you think about it, is that they are working on your accounts for 18 months ago. That might be a correct or an incorrect assumption, but that's the preconception. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're not really adding value to you going forward, particularly. And you're paying money for something because you have to, for legal reasons.
Yep.
The account's done. Yeah. So it's almost like a distressed purchase. Yeah. And that's not a good perception. So when I actually had sessions with these accountancy people and the offices they had and talked to them about it, I realized they were equally interested, if not more interested, in helping the clients to develop their businesses, to go forward, to grow. Yeah. So as we went through the process, what I realized, and it was quite interesting because when you work with 4 key partners in a business, they all start off with a different perception of what they are and a different perception of what they need to be seen to be. So it's an interesting journey you take them through. It really is a journey. And basically, at the end of the day, we ended up with them being positioned as accountants and business growth specialists. Because that's what they really were.
Yeah,
They actually said to me, oh my God, that's what we are. Why didn't we see that? But they couldn't see it. They were accountants. Yeah? So that was the example. And the strap line became fresh thinking, because what I realized is they were talking about wanting to help their clients. They said, Phil, do you know a really good commercial lawyer? Do you know a really good HR person? Because we want to be able to refer them on to our clients to help their clients develop their businesses. And they asked me if I would work with them in branding in that sense, to which I said, yes, of course. So I could see that they weren't really backward looking, they were forward looking. They were bringing fresh thinking to the table.
Sure.
By suggesting these things. So they became Track House Group as was. They became accountants and business growth specialists because they were. And the growth specialist is interesting to people.
Yep.
The accountants ticks the box, but the growth specialist separates them. And the strapline became fresh thinking, future focused. In other words, taking the perceptions head on. Yeah.
Excellent. So where does the name Strangebrew come from? You've mentioned breweries a couple of times. Is that the link?
It's nothing to do with breweries. And I mean, that's the first thing I do is I disappoint people because they think they have something to do with the brewing and beers and whatever. I also disappoint them because the second thing other people think, people of my age think, Strangebrew, Eric Clapton, Cream, the track from Disraeli Gear's Strangebrew, nothing to do with music. So I disappoint them twice. And then I really disappoint them because I tell them what I'm really all about, which is branding. But Strangebrew actually is a reflection of me. I am a strange brew. In this industry, I am a strange brew. For the very simple reason that most people who are offering branding and saying they can do branding, they're actually doing logos, design work. And they have never, ever worked client side. And the thing that makes me different is that 15 years on the client side combined with the 31 years on the consultancy side, because it's about getting the brief right, understanding the client's position, the client's needs. And it's not always what they want. In fact, it's usually not what they want, it's what they need that we need to drill into. And that's my skill. That's what makes me different. That's why I'm a strange brew.
Excellent. And obviously you've moved now to the Northwest, hence the Business Network Chester is lucky enough to have you as a member. In transitioning from being on both sides of the fence and then going from the south to the north, what's your view on pricing? Because I'm guessing that most people in the network will think, as you've already alluded to, well, if I'm going to undertake a big branding exercise, that's going to cost a lot before we even got to designing a logo. So how do you operate from that perspective?
Well, it's the stupid thing is it doesn't really cost that much more to do a job properly, to do branding rather than just go on and do logos and design. And it's going to be a quick payback. And I suppose what I've done and what I did when I set up when I set up my own business back in 2000, when I went from QED, Quite Extraordinary Design, to being Strange Brew, when I worked from home, was I still deliver what I call London quality. It's still exactly the process and the quality that I gave to those big FMCG clients. But because I didn't have the overheads, and because I didn't have all the people, I use freelance designers as and when I need them, I was able to offer London quality, but at what I call Glasgow prices. And I can get to the answer pretty quickly, which means that it's affordable. People who think they could never afford me are very, very surprised when we have a conversation. They first of all see the value I can add, and they secondly realize that not only is it affordable, but it's something they need to spend, they need to invest. They can see the difference. Yeah. In the north, I suppose there's. In the south, the numbers are bigger because they're used to dealing with London agencies and things like that. But to be honest with you, for the last 20 years, I've been dealing with smaller businesses who don't deal with London agencies and whatever. They would never consider it.
Sure.
But really what I'm doing is I'm sort of in between the London agencies and the people who do logos. I do real brand. I do brand identities.
Yeah.
And that, I think to explain a little bit, logo is just a picture. A name is just a word. And they're what stand for your brand. They're how people recognize or identify your brand or your business. but your brand is what you stand for.
Yeah.
It's your purpose. And that's what I help people to identify. So my purpose is to eradicate the bland, is to help people stand out from the crowd for thinking brand, not bland. That is my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can identify with that, that's what makes me different.
Yeah. And I do think it's a really valuable point, because quite often, in fact, really quite a lot, especially when we have maybe newer people join the network and people that we've had for a while, I'll always have the conversation with people about, oh, will you host a speaker slot, or will you host a seminar? And people are self-dismissive of, oh, I'm not really of interest. And so they're already embedding this, well, I'm a nothingness, blandness, why would anyone need to listen to me? And what you're saying is everyone should take that time to flip that, because you all stand, especially in our network, you all will stand for something, and you will all have that spark, that special place that is purely for you. But sometimes you just need that nudge and that support to actually figure that out.
Yeah, you've got to know the territory you want to own, and that's what branding's about. It's what you want people to say when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
How do people remember you? And if you just say he's an accountant, he's a solicitor, he's a website designer, or he's a branding consultant, it's not good enough. It really is not good enough. And there's something in everyone, but you can't see it yourself. They can't see it themselves because they blink it.
Yeah.
And it takes a few questions and a few observations. They suddenly go, oh my God, why didn't we see that? Why didn't I see that?
Mm-hmm.
We need to do that. How much would it cost?
So Phil, reflecting on your sort of time since you've been working from home, is there a brand journey that is the one you're most proud of, or where you can, they've clearly within a year, 2 years, 3 years been able to go, wow, look at the impact this has had?
Excuse me. There's a couple. The accountancy group that I spoke about, they were really pleased. They really went through oh my God, that's what we are. And when they spread it down to the 4 offices they had and 100 people that they had, everybody was excited. Now we know what we are. Now we know why we're different. And they got enthusiasm. And I think it was 2.5 years later, they sold the business on for a fortune.
Wow.
The accountancy group. Another good example is Castle Rock Brewery, where this was quite a few years ago. But I'd knocked on the door and talked to them about it because I had relaunched the brewery that used to be the biggest one in Nottingham. And it was taken over by Green King, and they shut the brewery down. I'd relaunched the flagship ale and all their guest ales to great success. And I couldn't talk to the other breweries, obviously, for competitive reasons. But since they'd been bought by Green King and the brewery had been shut down and there was no business anymore of Harley's and Hanson's in Nottingham, I was able to talk to the other brewery. And the chairman there was very dismissive of design and branding, very. He said, I don't need this Ponzi stuff. This is just Ponzi stuff, it's not worth anything. But I convinced him, I talked to him about the job I'd done with Harley's and Hanson's, and eventually agreed to a budget, a reasonable budget, but a small budget, yeah? And what I did is I created all I did was to evolve their business identity. They were Castle Rock Brewery, but it was used badly. It was used inconsistently. It looked cheap and nasty. It looked like something done in the back of a fag packet, which is what it was at one point, right? But the truth of the matter is they had award-winning ales. They were winning awards everywhere.
Wow.
But the company, the branding didn't reflect that. So really what I did was I aligned that identity with the quality of their ales. So more people would want to try it because the branding looked better. I relaunched all their ales and it was extremely successful. And I remember basically what happened was 2 years after I did that job for them, I cost them £600,000.
Oh.
They spent £600,000. And that was because they had to triple output of the brewery to keep up with demand. So I've got a nice testimonial saying I used to think that branding was a non-essential, but essential, from that man who was the chairman and chief executive. So
Brilliant.
yeah, that's an example.
And so I think people that are not living in the marketing branding world probably just interchange branding and marketing and think it's the same thing. What would you say to them?
Yes, they do. And part of the problem, any business launching, they dive into execution. They almost dive into marketing activity straight away. Yeah. So they're doing the logo, and the next day they're doing the website, the social media campaign, etc., etc. But they haven't worked out what they're communicating or what they're trying to communicate, right? And that's really sad. They haven't worked out the point of difference. They haven't worked out why someone should go to them rather than a competitor. And marketing is about creating awareness of something. But the first most important thing you got to do is work out what it is you're trying to make them aware of. And that's branding. The brand is what you are, what you stand for, what you want people to say about you when you're not in the room, your business when you're not in the room. But too many people dive into execution, they dive into marketing without having done the branding. So branding is something that should be done before the marketing. I meet people often who are saying, well, we've got a logo and we're doing a website, should we talk to you about brand? 3 months ago, yes. Now you've already defined it.
Yeah.
But it's not defined because they haven't defined the brand. The social media, the website and everything are going off in different directions. There's no strategy. And branding is your strategy. And it is your point of differentiation. It is how to stand out from the crowd. But please don't tell anyone I'm a branding consultant or anything. Just tell them I help businesses stand out from the crowd.
Stand out from the crowd. Perfect.
Yeah.
So how can we in the Business Network Chester best help you, Phil? Who would you like to be meeting?
Well, look, the thing is, I'm in networking not just to sell what I do to people in the network or their clients. I'm looking for collaborative possibilities. I want people that I can introduce to my clients or people that I meet. Yeah, it's about a bigger picture, a longer term relationship building exercise. But yeah, I'm looking for introductions to anyone whose business isn't maybe as good as it could be. They might be going to do a new website. Well, why? Because business isn't as good as it could be. They're losing to the competitors. But you know what? The website probably isn't the problem. They haven't worked out what they should be communicating through that website. So it's about anyone who wants to give me half an hour of the time just to meet me. I'll ask a few questions, make a few observations, and we'll be able to identify whether I can help them or not. But there's nobody there saying I need to rebrand or whatever. Yes, they do that in London and whatever, but it's not a conversation that people do logos, sadly, but it gets sold as brand. They think it's a brand. It's not a brand. So it's about anyone out there who's got clients. They could be accountants, they could be solicitors, they could be anybody. And if they want to help those clients, I can help those clients. And they'll do themselves a favor by doing that. So yeah, that's what I'm all about. And I'm really looking forward to meeting more people in the Northwest and in the Chester Business Network.
So tell me, outside of business, what do you do, Phil? For fun or leisure or fitness?
Well, I'm a full-time carer. My wife is disabled, so I'm a full-time carer. But for work, for business, I play for leisure, I play the odd game of golf. It's a very odd game of golf. I'm not playing enough. A decent game of golf, but yes, I like to do that. I also like cars. I'm interested in cars. I'm trying to help a young racing driver. In fact, he's Indian, but he's been over here about 10 years, and he's trying to break into endurance racing.
Oh, wow.
In a minor way, I got him a drive at Brands Hatch in the Eurocar series. And in point of fact, 3 weeks ago at Brands Hatch, he won the first race and was third in the second race. And my branding was on the car on the podium in both occasions.
Brilliant.
I like cars. I love music. I've been trying to help a couple of really talented people. One's a pianist whose music, she's not known as a pianist. She just happens to be a good pianist and composer. And I'm trying to help her break through to get her music used in films or TV dramas or TV adverts. She really is amazing. So anyone out there who knows anyone in the film business or TV business, let me know, because music is fabulous. We recorded 14 tracks on Abbey Road, and it was the Beatles studio, Abbey Road. Unbelievable. And my other friend is, she's a Greek girl, and she's a singer-songwriter with her own style. And I've been trying to help her as well. Yeah, I like helping talented people.
Brilliant. So is there a question I haven't asked you that I should have done?
Well, I don't think so. Yes, I'm happy to be in the northwest. I love the new location. We're just a couple of miles outside Wrexham. Not in Wrexham, which is not the greatest place in the world, but we're on the road across to Chester, and it's really, really nice. So I'm very happy.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Phil. It's been really interesting, and I'm sure the network will have gained a lot. And we're looking forward to you hosting the seminar in September as well at the main event.
That's
so for anyone that's really interested in learning more, then join us for that. So thank you very much for your time, Phil, today.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Take care, and I'll see you
on the 11th.
See you on the 11th. Bye for now. Bye-bye.